Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Ratner. As part of our how-to series, we're going to look at how to remember what you need to know to make my system work. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and I'll get back to you personally. I often get the question, what is it that you need to remember when you're walking around trying to not have symptoms, actually in the moment? But not only that, a lot of people aren't even asking that question. They don't realize they have that question. I thought it would be helpful to have a video that highlights what it is that I think about kind of more generally. How do I get that system cemented in my head so that you can do the same thing? It's very important to organize your own thinking on this all so that you can get access to the necessary pieces of information you've learned. And this is another reason I break it down into its individual parts, because that is the thing that can allow you to kind of be able to picture the system in your head, or if you're not a visual learner, to just have it organized, accessible. Because otherwise you're knowledgeable, but you're still confused and lost in the moment. And a knowledgeable person who's confused is just as confused as anybody else. So it's in the moment that you need to be able to master the symptoms. And there's a couple of ideas I have, or at least how I work it, that I want to lend to you, and then we'll see what other things you guys come up with. So we're going to talk about some of the key strategies I use. And as usual, I'm a very kind of regimented thinker in this way, and we'll go through column by column first. What do I do with each column when I'm walking around? How do I think about it? So with the emotions column, I like to think of it only in terms of the broad themes. That's the only thing that I keep in my mind. The 6 to 12 broad themes, I don't mean to put a specific number on it, but a little too low and too high can be problematic. Once you get it to a kind of good number, I just think in terms of the global themes. I don't remember the specifics offhand. What I remember are the broad strokes, and those are the things that I have available to me. So, of course, knowing the source of whatever is causing the symptoms makes things better for everyone. The antidote to doubt is knowledge. So symptoms get eradicated with knowing. But you can't know if you don't have the system set up in a way you can access. And this is why those broad level themes are so important. They make sense of why we get the symptoms from these things in the first place, but they also give you almost like a file to go in. I think of it like a computer file. The computer files are validity, losing my dad and the ramifications of that, struggles between my brother and myself, thinking that I am achieving but not being fully recognized or not being seen fully. These are just the broad themes. I don't have to get into the specifics, but they're like files I can go into. So if you can't see why you're having symptoms, then you aren't understanding your themes. The way to understand the themes is to have the broad perspective. You click in that file. You go in the validity file, and here's the thing. All of the specifics are there. What you have to do is trust your mind. After all, you do know yourself, so you just need the topic to remember the details. Essentially, what I'm doing is I get in the right ballpark, and then I zero in. You don't need to remember the details offhand. Get in the right ballpark first, and then you get there. So built into my head are my major themes. Not the specifics at all, but just my major themes. If I had to remember one thing from the emotions column, it's that. What are my major themes? I access those specifics once I've opened the files. So this is why, this is another reason why I like it to be 6 to 12 themes. If it's too few, it doesn't cover enough ground, and it's just not accurate enough. But if you have more than that, it gets really jumbled. It's too many files to remember. So you can figure that out. Maybe you have too many files even at 12 for you. Then merge the files somehow. You could say validity and data issues. Boom, that's one. Whatever's going to help you have it organized in your head so that you can get access to those inner files. That's what you want to do. With respect to the doubt column, the way that I have it organized, and I've tried to lay that out for you guys because it's what worked for me, is that there's two parts to organizing doubt that have been very helpful for me. There's those 3 levels of doubt. So let's review that. One is this a mind-body issue or not? In other words, is it structural? Is it something just purely physical? The second is, okay, I believe it is a mind-body process, but how far does that go? Can this kind of thing be mastered, cured, eradicated, that sort of thing? And the third one is, can it get better for me? So those are like those big ticket files that I was talking about in the emotional field. I click into those files. I think, am I having a doubt at level 1, level 2, level 3? Another file system I have is the 4 types that help you organize doubt. So let's review that too. You've got questions, you've got confusion, you've got a lack of certainty or just general doubt, and you've got fear. I look in those like they're files, and the specifics are all in there. I know me. I just need it organized. So I go through one level of doubt at a time, breaking things down into its components bite by bite, and that will help you not only keep organized, but also keep calm. It's a very important point, is that when you're organized in this way, you stay calmer. People think better when they're both calm and organized. We talked about this in previous videos, but your processing speed goes down when you're anxious or you're panicked. Having a system like this to fall back on makes it so that you get into that state much less, and actually even when you're in that state, you're just able to think more clearly because you have something to fall back on. So this is another reason I think that my system works better than so many others in the mind-body field. It organizes it, it keeps it so that you can stay calm and have something to fall back on even when you're in a panic. It's organized and it's more simple. So we go through one type of doubt at a time. But here's the other thing. We have to remember, we also sometimes have to work on getting doubts articulated. So that's another organizing principle. I look in those levels, I look at the types, but if I still feel like there's doubt there and I don't know what it is, I follow my own logic. Something like this. If I'm worried about this, what must it mean? It must mean that I have doubt about what? I don't know. So you follow your own logic and you can get there. Here's an example. You might say, I don't know if I can get better because I've been hurting for so long. So then we would say, well, what is that doubt actually about? That doubt is actually about, maybe it is structural. Maybe aging does it. Maybe neural pathways get too entrenched. I don't believe any of the stuff I just said. Those are things that would raise doubts. I don't actually agree with them, but I'm just showing how you can get those articulated. So here's another thing for managing doubts. You want to have your resource system kind of set. I hear a lot of people casting about trying this, trying that, and I don't blame you at all. That's exactly what I would be doing in your position also, especially if I didn't have this. What I'm trying to provide is something that can kind of put that to rest, where you take the stuff you like from the people you like, and you feel like you've got a set system that's working. So you got to know what kind of things help you, and then you can start to ignore the rest. As an example, if scientific studies help you, collect these and have this high on your list of action steps. You could even make a document that has all of your favorite studies in it to be able to go back and look at. And maybe that's the thing that helps you. But for other people, they don't care about that. It doesn't really even get the job done. So maybe talking it out with someone else is what helps them. It's got to be someone you can trust, obviously. We just did a video on last week on how society can bring about doubt. So choose wisely, but once you feel like you have somebody who you really can trust with this, who's not going to cause you doubt, maybe you talk it out with them. Rewatching my podcast might be what helps you. Save the ones you like into a playlist. Get your resource system down, whatever that's going to be. The more organized your own system is, the less doubt, fear, confusion, and questions you'll have. And the more organized your system is, the less you have to remember. That's another important part. You just remember the steps of your system. So you develop your system, and don't worry about what works for someone else. They have their own mind that works totally differently. Just figure out what works for you and hone your system down. The simpler it is, the more organized it is, the easier it is to hold in your mind. And if you need help shaping it, you can come to me or other resources. Just figure out what your system is going to be. I think my overarching framework is a helpful way that's a starting point. And then you hone it within yourself. So another thing we've been talking about a lot recently is stopping information overload. That's kind of along the lines of what I just said, but I do want to highlight it again. You got to choose what works for you and stick to it. A lot of times people are off. It's like they have wanderlust. They're like, well, I don't know. Maybe there's something else out there. I really want to encourage you. Most of the people in the mind-body community are saying a very similar thing in different ways. But I will say, not to toot my own horn, but hopefully to give you a sense of optimism about this. One of the reasons that Crushing Doubt offers something else is we have 2 whole other columns. For the most part, everybody's talking about emotions, and that's a very important part. It's one of the key columns, but we've got the doubt and the power column, and we also get to see how they work together, which was in a video that came out earlier this week. Now, let's move to the power column. How do you organize that? The key variable in understanding power is learning to identify whether you are in power at any given moment or not. And that's actually all you need to know. And the way that I organize it is with the 3 different aspects of power. Those 3 different aspects are you in power with yourself? Are you in power with others? And are you in power in relation to your symptoms? So what you need to do is identify if you are out of power. And then you need to figure out what would be the powerful move for you, as long as you would feel good about it, and then do that. I know it sounds overly simple. I'm not meaning to suggest this is easy. What I'm trying to do, though, is simplify it so that it's easier to remember. That's all you're going to need to do. Again, let's just review that. Recognize whether you're in power or not at those 3 different levels. Figure out what the powerful move would be for you, and then go ahead and do it. Now, the core narrative also organizes, and it's really the only thing you need to remember if you're too activated. It's one of the reasons I have it. It's like when you're in a panic and you're having anxiety and your processing speed is slowed down, or you're in trauma, you cannot think the same way. The core narrative can cut through that because it's just one thing you have to hold on to. So the more we hone it down, the better. Let me just review that also one more time for all 3 columns. If you're in a panic, if anybody's in a panic, we all forget most things. So a system needs to be simple to be easily remembered. The simpler it is, the better. The more organized it is, the better. The more accurate it is, the better. To me, this is my system. This is why it is set up the way that it is. It is set up to be more organized, more accurate, more foolproof for dealing with panic, because we're all going to hit that point. We're all going to go into trauma at some point. What I like to do is to have a flow chart in my mind, but you could have one that's written down. Maybe that's more important for you. Whatever it is you're going to need, think about it that way. My flow chart essentially is this. I go 1 column at a time. I locate the column that I think is the active one. Then I locate the theme or meaning that's underneath it. Then I decide on an action step, and I do not rush to the next step. I take it slow and systematically, and I've described how to do it with each column. So you can hone it down even further. But I'm just trying to show you how I get it down to its essence, and that makes it much more memorable. So doing things step by step also helps you stay calm and not overwhelmed. And a flow chart gives you a system to rely on and takes the pressure off you. If you can come to trust your system, you don't need to do everything all the time. You can just feel like, I've got this. That's where sometimes people do need to write down their flow chart if they need to. So this way you can refer to it when needed, and the thing is, it'll eventually become automatic. This way of thinking about mind-body issues, it's like practicing anything else. Just we're practicing having the general framework down cold so that it can help you in moments of panic, and it also helps you in moments of calm. It just helps you know, I've got this. I know how this works. And then you're settled, and then you're not running around trying to get information from everywhere. You feel like, I really understand how this works. So I have lots of ways to help you with that. You can certainly reach out to me at dan@crushingdoubt.org. But I've also begun these seminars, and one place you can go actually to sign up for them, if you're ready to do so, is www.crushingdoubtseminars.org. You can sign up for it directly on there. You can also order my PDFs. Eventually, you'll be able to order them on the website itself. But for now, contact me at dan@crushingdoubt.org. And eventually, I'll have my book available for you too. These are all different ways to help you, but they are all related to this system that you develop. And they can all help you develop that system within my framework. One of the reasons my system works is because it incorporates the idea that your brain is different than everyone else's. And this is very important for getting better. But your brain is also the same as everyone else's in some ways. The system captures how we're all the same, and it offers thoughts that you can go in any direction that relate to you. Keep developing your system, use my information as the framework, and keep going. I hear a lot of people are doing great out there, and I'm very pleased to hear it. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally.